All right, today we are jumping into a really fascinating and honestly kind of dangerous trap for anyone who builds things. This comes from Fred Brooks' absolute classic, The Mythical Man Month. It's something called the second system effect, and it's all about how your greatest success can actually set you up for your biggest failure. Sounds wild, right? Okay, let's get into it. So just imagine this for a second. You've just wrapped up your first big project. It was a massive success, you were careful, you showed a lot of restraint, and it totally paid off. You're feeling good, right? Confident, like you've finally mastered your craft. Well, that feeling, that very success, is exactly what makes your next project the most dangerous one you'll ever take on. And this, right here, is the heart of the trap. You see, an architect's first work is usually pretty clean and simple, and that's because they know what they don't know. They're careful. But that success, it breeds this incredible, powerful confidence. And with that confidence comes this huge temptation to do everything they couldn't do the first time around. So you end up with this massive conflict. On one hand, you have your first system. It's lean, it's clean because you were cautious. But on the other hand, well, all those cool ideas you had to put on the shelf for later, in the second system, they all come rushing back at once. And that beautiful, clean design, it just turns into this complex, over-engineered pile of frills. And there it is, the official definition from Brooks himself. The second system effect. It's that tendency to just go overboard on the follow-up. It's a classic trap, and it's born from that newfound confidence and this huge backlog of wouldn't it be cool if ideas that you were just too smart to include before. You know, it's funny, the ancient Roman poet Ovid absolutely nailed this thousands of years ago. Each little feature, every tiny embellishment, it seems harmless by itself, right? But you add one, then another, and before you know it, you're buried under a massive, unmanageable pile. Okay, so let's make this less abstract. Let's look at a real-world, high-stakes cautionary tale. We're going to dig into IBM's operating system slash 360, which Brooks points to as a perfect textbook example of the second system effect in action. This is where the theory gets very, very real. Now, the really crucial thing to understand here is that the teams designing OS/360, they were all coming off of other successful but much smaller systems. Almost nobody on the team had built two operating systems before. So what did that make them? Brilliant, confident, and absolutely primed to fall right into the trap of over-designing their second system. Man, this critique from computer scientist Christopher Strachey, it just cuts right to the bone. It perfectly captures that paradox of the second system. It's brilliant, sure, incredibly ingenious, but it's also a total mess. It's like this monument to cleverness that completely misses the whole point of elegance and efficiency. And if you want to see just how deep this problem goes, get this: 26 bytes. That was the amount of memory permanently used up just to handle a leap year date change. A tiny, almost absurd frill that an operator could have easily handled. This is exactly how a system gets bloated, one supposedly clever feature at a time. But believe it or not, it actually gets worse. See, the second system effect isn't just about adding a bunch of frills. It's also about perfecting techniques that are already on their way out. It's like spending all your energy building the world's most incredible horse-drawn carriage right as the first automobile is rolling off the assembly line. So let's look at the first of these dinosaurs, the OS/360 linkage editor. I mean, on paper, this thing was a masterpiece. It was one of the most flexible program overlay managers ever created, a real triumph of engineering. But here's the fatal flaw. It was the last and finest of its kind for a reason. The entire foundation it was built on, this idea of static overlays, was already being replaced by dynamic memory allocation, which was the new reality for the system they were building. And then you had the test strand debugger, and again, a total marvel in its own right. It was the absolute pinnacle of batch debugging experience. It had these incredibly elegant snapshot capabilities, and you didn't even have to recompile your code. And I bet you can guess the punchline, can't you? While the team was busy perfecting batch debugging, the entire world of computing was moving on to interactive systems. They built this beautiful, elegant solution to a problem that was quickly just ceasing to be a problem. Our final example is the job scheduler. And just like the others, it was a fantastic piece of work. It was a highly refined, much improved version of a scheduler from an earlier system, and it was absolutely excellent at one thing: managing a fixed stream of batch jobs. So You see the problem. Its design was fundamentally backward-looking. Just like the other dinosaurs, it was perfected for a world that was vanishing. And its architecture actually made it harder to implement the very features that OS 360 was supposed to be pioneering. Okay, so that's the cautionary tale. Pretty bleak, right? It's easy to spot the problem in hindsight, but what's the solution? How do we actually avoid falling into this trap ourselves? Well, let's turn the corner and look at what Brooks suggests is the way out. Discipline. I mean, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? You can't just skip your second system. But what you can do is be hyper-aware of the special dangers that come with it. And you can use some very specific kinds of self-discipline to protect yourself and your project. Brooks lays out 4 key disciplines, and they're all about empowering the person building the thing without losing control of the vision. You suggest what to do, but not how. You have an idea for how it could be done to prove it's possible. You discuss these things privately to keep things constructive. And this one is huge. You let the builder take the credit for the good ideas. It's all about guiding the project with a light touch, not an iron fist. Now, this might be one of the most practical, powerful pieces of advice in the whole book. To fight that constant urge to add every little frill, the architect has to assign a concrete value, a budget, to every single function. This forces you to actually justify why it needs to exist. And here's what that looks like. You give every single feature a hard budget, in bytes of memory and microseconds of time. This completely changes the conversation. It turns these vague, nice-to-have ideas into a concrete trade-off. Is that shiny new frill really worth the cost? Suddenly, saying no gets a whole lot easier. But look, this isn't just on the architect. Managers play a massive role here. For one, they can insist on getting a senior architect who has already built and survived their second system. A manager can also be that crucial outside voice, constantly aware of these temptations, asking the hard questions, and making sure the original, clean vision isn't getting lost in all the cool new details. So, what's the big takeaway here? When you boil it all down, it really comes to just 2 things: awareness and self-discipline. You have to be consciously, actively aware that the second system is a trap waiting for you. And then you need the discipline to fight that urge, to fight against adding useless features, and to stop yourself from perfecting things that are already becoming yesterday's news. And that brings us to one final thought for you to take with you. Look at whatever it is you're building right now. Be brutally honest with yourself. Which parts are truly moving things forward, and which parts are you just refining because you can? Which of your most brilliant features are actually the last and finest of the dinosaurs?